All right, and welcome to the Reactors Summit. Today we're going to be going over all of the matches that happened this week, including that really spectacular win by Merck and Draco versus Ben Bateman. We're also going to be going over a couple pieces of Schmoedown news, as well as next week's matches. The next week's matches look fantastic, so I cannot personally wait. We've got a great panel to go over everything, but we're going to get right into it today, so let's go. All right, guys, and we're here with the Reactor Summit. We've got a fantastic panel, like I said. Joining us once again, as per usual, is our good friend, Malcolm. How's it going?
Pretty good. Just ready to talk some Schmoedown and some interesting matches that happened this week.
Absolutely. And I'd like to say he's still a guest, but I think like 3 summits in a row no longer qualifies you as a guest. So, Jeremy, how's it going, man?
Going pretty good. Do not believe the rumors. I'm not in an igloo, even though I'm bundled up freezing cold, but I'm ready to talk Schmoedown and everything that happened this week.
Perfect. All right. I hope that igloo's treating you well. We also have returning Sandy. How's it going, man? Long time no see.
It's Kristen. It's going great. Thanks for having me today. I was really excited for this week of Schmoedown, so I'm really excited to talk about it.
Definitely. And also returning is Brooklyn Vale. How's it going, man?
This is actually my debut of the summit. But yeah,
I've had you on before.
No, I'm a fresh face from up north. Although it was snowing all day, it is nice and warm in here. So my condolences to Jeremy with the cold weather.
I mean, like, I'm from the north and it was beautiful today, so I don't know where you guys live. But I could have sworn we've had you on before.
Oklahoma.
Apparently, we're missing out. But we do have another debut, and we have Albert. Also, you can find him on YouTube doing his own reactions and stuff, so that's awesome. How's it going, man?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm ready to talk some Schmoedown.
Perfect. It's what I like to hear, everyone excited to talk about the show that we're going to be doing. And as always, we do have Abe, the editor, taking care of us and making sure we're all on camera at the appropriate times. All right, we're going to move on to the first match. Now, this was a match between 2 debut teams. We had the Scream Queens, and we also had the Garden Hosers. Now, we knew who the Garden Hosers were going to be at the start of the match. But the Scream Queens were a bit of a surprise. Now, Haley Fouch being someone out of the free-for-all that I thought we really needed to look out for her. And then her friend, who I forgot to write down her name, but she was also very good. And she's from the website Bloody Disgusting, I believe. And that's a really good website for any horror fans out there. And man, I was really impressed with both of them. I thought that they both had a really good debut. And obviously they really outplayed the Garden Hosers there, and it was a very well-deserved win. But we're going to get right into talking about this match. So we'll start it out with one of our newbies. So Albert, what did you think about this match, and what are some key takeaways you had regarding these 2 new teams?
Oh, okay. This is an interesting debut for both teams. I feel like they had a rough round 2. But overall, it was quite close. I believe the final score was like 16-15, right? So yeah, it's a very interesting match.
Definitely. And yeah, the final score was 16-15. It was a TKO. So coming right out of the gates with a TKO, the Scream Queens are really, I think, a team to look out for, especially if they can get a better category in their round 2. What did you think about this one, Sandy?
I really thought it was a really okay debut for Scream Queens. Scream Queens, sorry. I thought the Garden Hosers were, a little early Josh McCouga, out there just having a good time. It's sort of like the Real Rejects do. Like they're out there having fun, and if they get some questions right, yeah. Scream Queens, you can tell that they've got some holes, that they need to brush up on. But I pity the fool whoever gets them in a horror category, because they're good. And don't forget, they did a lot of stealing on the Garden Hosers' turn, to give them that lead to begin with. So props to them for knowing a little bit of something else too.
Definitely. And this was most certainly a match of stealing. You saw a lot in round 2. Specifically, the Garden Hosers actually stealing more points than they earned for a lot of the match in that round 2. And so that was fairly surprising. But yeah, we did look up the co-team of the Scream Queens, and that would be Kaylin Corrigan, and she was fantastic. I really enjoyed her, and I can't wait to see them play again. Let's move on. Brooklyn, what did you think about this one? And was there anything that caught your eye with these new teams?
I was very curious to see what happens in round 2 if Scream Queens spins away from Christopher Nolan. I know they had debated that, but that was but they decided to stick with it. Obviously, it didn't work out short term, but then obviously long term they did get the steals. I mean, with Thomas and Matt, they reminded me kind of the BTC, with Matt being the Ricky Hayberg and Thomas being the Ellie Dewberry. Also, Kaylin Corrigan now rivaling Mark Riley as the greatest hair in the Schmoedown. Gotcha. She has very nice hair.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know if our very own Matt Kearns would agree with you on that one or not. And I wasn't really paying too much attention to her hair, but I'll take your word for it. Malcolm, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those matches that was very interesting. It's like it was a nice palate cleanser after the freeform. It's like it was nice to have like just a solid match that had a lot of good comedy moments in it. Like it may not have been the highest scoring match, but it's just entertaining. It's like, and Garden Hosers, I think, will do well against either the Wild Berries or Real Rejects. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that comedy thing I think was really key to this match, because you had a really great team on the desk with Bibbs and Ellis, and that was the first time that you've seen both of them working together, and my God, they were hilarious. The puns that Bibbs was making at the beginning were just amazing. I was dying, because a really bad pun is like my sense of humor, so that's perfect for me. And last but not least about this match, we've got Jeremy. What did you think about this one?
This match was weird. I guess that's the best way to put it. Very competitive, kind of for ways that we weren't expecting. There was so much stealing in round 2, I thought they were going to have to call the cops. I didn't think that much stealing was even legal. And I think it also is the first time in history that someone literally got sick on air. I think that's the first time. But didn't Thomas literally leave the set in round 3 to throw up right before Angelina Jolie came up? So yeah, this entertaining for all the wrong reasons, I guess, is the best way to put it. So yeah, Garden Hosers makes their debut pretty much just there now to set up their Wild Berries match and maybe just disappear after that. So who knows where they go from there. Scream Queens deserved victory, but ultimately I think they should probably pump the brakes after they said they would like to play the Shire Wolves. Let's not get ahead of ourselves on that one. It's probably not the best team to start challenging after a victory like that. But they can definitely be a good team if they get the categories that they are very good at.
Yeah, definitely might want to rethink that Shire Wolves call out, just because besides the fact that the Shire Wolves are a very scary team to have to face for anyone after only one match, you have someone on that team who has about the same strength you do. And so if you miss even one of those questions, you know for a fact Clark Wolf will be stealing that point away from you. So it's a little bit of a scary thought right there moving into that. But we did have some interesting stuff that came out of this. One of them being that the Wild Berries are kind of, I guess, just the shout out team for pretty much every post-credit interview at this point now, because both teams eventually did say that they wanted to play the Wild Berries moving forward, which, hey, you know what? The Wild Berries are fantastic. And we told Abe that we would find a way to put it into the show. But I thought that was probably a better matchup for the Garden Hosers. I think that their skill sets would line up, and it would be a very entertaining match. And so I would really look forward to that. But I do think that there is probably a better match out there for the Scream Queens, maybe one of the other new teams that's come in, and they can match some of those people up as well. And then we had opening credit scenes and post-credit scenes for this, and we're going to see a trend in the opening credit scenes this week. But the first scene that we saw was between Brienne and Mike Kalinowski, and you saw him basically come in and give his spiel about wanting to have a chance at the Inner Geekdom belt and trying to make Brienne give away her #1 contender spot. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but let's see what everyone else has to say. So, Jeremy, did you have any opinions about this opening credit scene?
Yeah, speaking of weird, this pre-promo was kind of awkward. Mike, I don't really know what the idea was for Mike coming in there, but he kind of came in there, was acting kind of like a almost like pretty creepy on his request of trying to ask for a title shot. It just had like a really awkward chemistry there. I don't know if that was the plan, but it felt kind of cringeworthy, honestly, watching that entire promo. I don't know where it's obviously going to go, because obviously we know everything that's going on with potentially with Brienne and the Patreon tease that we got at the end of the free-for-all. So I'm not really sure what that was all about, but maybe we'll get some more insight in the weeks to come. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, and I definitely think they're shaping this into a storyline for Brienne. I'm very interested to see where it goes. Brooklyn, did you have any thoughts about this opening credit scene here?
I'm concerned as to where it goes storyline. I mean, obviously, like with the 2 matches this week, we will see that trend of just people coming to Brienne. But I think Mike might have been a good person to start out. As we saw, they teamed up there at the second spectacular. But I'm not really sure why he would have to kind of like almost like beg or ask like that. I feel like Mike, if Brienne was to give it to somebody, Mike would be probably one of the first people in her pocket.
Yeah, the other thing I'm thinking about this, because they teamed up at the end of the spectacular, but then in some of the interviews they had after that, they very clearly kind of said we've got a team match coming up, but they didn't say that they would be on the same team. And we haven't seen that team match happen yet, so I think that this could potentially be a continuation of that storyline. At least I'm hoping, because that has really been something that I've been very curious about since the spectacular aired last year. Albert, did you have any thoughts about this one?
Oh yeah, definitely. When I was watching it in my head, I'm like, oh Mike, don't be greedy, because we all know that he got the challenge from Clark Wolf, so he clearly have a #1 contenders match. And if he's basically asking for a title match for Inner Geekdom, I believe, right? So if he get that, this will be like his 3rd #1 contender / title match in half a year. So that's going to be a lot for KO. And the way how he asked it, in my mind, I'm like, oh, is Mike starting to turn heel or something? Because like I said, he's being greedy.
Yeah, definitely. Heel watch on Mike has been going on for a while, but I think you're right. It seems a little bit like a heel move to push that out there. Malcolm, did you have any of those same thoughts watching this opening credit scene?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know why he's asking. It was just that close to begging, and just got really hard to watch. But I mean, with this and combined with the other one, which we'll talk about later, but I think this could end up to Brienne going like, look, all of you want to put my title shot, so I'm going to put you all in a match and I'll give it to whoever wins that match. So
definitely. And yes, we will be talking about the other opening credit scene once we get to the second match. Last but not least, Sandy, what were your thoughts about this opening credit scene?
Yeah, I'm sort of a grouping of all of you guys of what you've already said. I mean, the one thing that it really kind of came out was just like since Mike lost in the semifinals of the spectacular, or the tournament, he's sort of been really not sure of himself. He went out early. He's gone out bad in a couple of matches. He's gone on sort of a really bad run of bad luck for his competing. So this just stunk of kind of like a desperation of, I need all the chances that I can get, because I feel like I'm sliding here. So the desperation of like, listen, hey, would you think about, get blah blah blah, giving it to me. It was that non-confidence, like he doesn't have confidence in himself anymore, so he's looking for shortcuts, you know what I mean, instead of working yourself back and getting into a championship place yourself.
Yeah, and that's kind of what struck me during this whole thing, was that it was very kind of awkward the way that he was asking, and he just felt very like hesitant about doing it. And it was also a little weird to assume that Brianna's going to give this thing away. Like, I know he said it in his little awkward talk that, I know that you said you wanted to take a break. Well, she was back for free-for-all. And if you saw how she played, she's freaking back. Like, that is the strongest we've ever seen her play. And I can't imagine that she's going to give this away to anybody. So it was just weird to me that right out of the gate, people are swarming her like, hey, you're going to give this away to me, right? Like, that's just to me like very like, no. So, yeah, but I agree with you. It was a little weird how he was asking for it. The post-credit scene, and this will lead into, actually, we're just going to discuss Tuesday's match of next week right now, since this is a great time to do it. The post-credit scene for this match was another post-credit scene between Inman and Donica, and this one did feature Ken Knapsack himself, and this one was very interesting just because this matchup between the two has been very hyped, and I personally don't know how competitive the match will be. I mean, I've seen Inman play live, and he is something else to watch play. He's very knowledgeable, and he's got a lot of strengths. And I have also seen Donica play live, and I'm not so sure that he has that same confidence, but then they called it out in this post-credit scene. Confidence sometimes will kill you. So there's a bit of like a, old horse, newbie kind of dynamic happening here that I think is kind of fascinating, and they've really explored it here. We're going to discuss this post-credit scene. We're also going to discuss who we think is going to win that match on Tuesday between Donica and Inman for the Inner Geekdom belt. We're going to start it out and move it over to Malcolm. So what did you think about this, and who do you think is going to get that belt on Tuesday?
I mean, this post-credit scene had everything you could ever wanted it. It had like a lot of good comedy, especially from Ken and going back to the plains of wherever he came from, and Jason just throwing out shades of at least I know turmoil and all that. And I mean, it had actually one of my favourite fan arts from the old school Heroes days as well. Started off with, and as for who I think's going, I think Jason's going to keep the belt. I mean, Mark is a good player, but I think he does have a lot of holes as well, so unless he's studied a lot, then I think Jason's keeping that belt.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And yeah, that old school Heroes art was always really fun when people would make that, and I loved that they called that back. That was really fun. Moving on, Albert, what did you think about this scene, and who's going to get that belt?
Yeah, for the scene first, I'm just a bit surprised that, well, Inman didn't let them, but they were touching the belt, both Donica and Schneider. And I don't think a lot of champ usually allow whoever their challenger is to touch their belt. And yeah, Inman did complain, but yeah, there's just some thought about the scene. The scene is great in general. And for the match itself, I'm definitely rooting for Inman. I think Inman got this. Unless the wheel will give him Lord of the Rings. I think that's his weakest out of the geekdom category. I think Inman is solid in everything else. So yeah, I think Inman got this one.
Definitely. And yeah, it was interesting, just the dynamic between all three of the gentlemen in this scene, and was definitely something I'm looking forward to in their match, hopefully continuing, because I thought it was fantastic. Moving on, Brooklyn, what did you think about this post-credit scene, and who's going to get that belt?
I mean, in this post-credit scene, and I feel like most of these post-credit scenes is where Ken Napzok thrives. I mean, he has that wrestling managerial background, and he loves being that heel. And then obviously with Donica, they're giving him this Diesel kind of feel with the one glove and arm up in the air. But yeah, I thought that was great. And where you have Jason Inman just being like, just kind of taking it all in and like calling the bluffs, which is awesome. In terms of the match, I think I give it to Inman because I don't know if Donica has like a strategy, or he doesn't have that strategy towards the extra rounds. Would have the betting round and the speed round, so I'm not sure if he's going to have a good approach going into that. And I think that's what's going to give Jason that edge.
Definitely, we can never say enough how different the title matches are from the regular matches. And if you are not used to those additional rounds, that speed round in particular, you saw it when Rachel went up against Sam Levine. When you're just not ready for that speed round, that thing can kill you. And so it'll be interesting to see how the title match kind of works with how Mark plays. Last but not least, Jeremy, give us your thoughts on this scene and the match for Tuesday.
As far as the promo goes, I kind of found it was kind of funny because I said it the first time I was on here that if I was Inman, I wouldn't be intimidated in the slightest by what Donica did, and that's pretty much exactly what he's done. And I actually thought it was kind of funny the way he's been, acting in front of Donica, where he's pretty much been out dicking the dick, so to speak. Donica's pretty much just trying to act all smug and cocky, and like Inman's having none of it. As far as the match, Inman's going to win. I don't think it's even going to be close. To me, he's just clearly the superior player. He's done the championship rounds before, as we've said, and I think he's going to win it pretty comfortably. It's probably not going to go very far to the final round, if at all, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm along the same lines as everyone else with the match itself. I cannot really foresee Inman losing this match, but I do think overconfidence can play a little part in these matches. And Inman has been talking a very big game, and we've seen him play poorly in the past, not in Inner Geekdom, but in singles. He's had a really good match with that 5-way, and then the very next match was pretty disappointing. And so we know that he can kind of get into that place where he just doesn't have a good game. We've also seen it in teams, although he's been really solid the last year in teams. In my mind, I can't see him messing up too much on Inner Geekdom, but I do think overconfidence, if he does lose, that's going to be why. It's just going to be he comes into it thinking I have this, there's no way I'm losing, and then sometimes that just really messes with your mind. So if he loses, I'm going to be super shocked, so shocked. But moving on, we do have one discussion topic about this first match, kind of just with the people who have been on the desk recently. This season, we've had a really great randomization of who's going to be on the desk. We've seen a lot of newcomers show up to be kind of that host. We've seen Jen, we've seen Emma show up multiple times. Bibbs has been making his run at it. And it's been really cool seeing so many new people and also getting, different dynamics. Ken has been on there with different people. We've had Mark on there with people other than Christian. And so it's been really interesting to see all of those dynamics and how, each new desk you get creates a new atmosphere for that match, because not every match now feels the same. And so we're going to discuss this just a little bit on, how we like this, that they're switching this up with who's at the desk, and then who we want to see kind of move in and take their turn in the coming months. So it'll be interesting to see what people pick. I've got a couple ideas in my head who I think could do a really good job at the desk, but we're going to start it out and we're going to move right on to Brooklyn, you know, how have you kind of liked this new dynamic, and who do you want to see moving into the desk role in the months coming forward?
All right. So in terms of the desk, I actually have a very unpopular opinion about Emma Fife. If you want to check that out, you can go to a Weekend Rewind about 2 weeks ago, about an hour and 10 minutes in. There's about a 3-minute rant I have about Emma Fife, but I'll leave that be. I would like to actually see Mark Andreyko back at the desk. I think the 1 or 2 times that he's been there, it's awesome. And then to go back to the field reporters, I would love to see Mark Riley come back. I thought whenever he was the field reporter at the Spectacular, he was great. He had that kind of cheesy approach to it, which I thought was excellent. And then if we were to put in like a new person, I think Elliot Dewberry would be pretty cool. He just kind of have that I don't really care, I don't want to be here approach, which I think would be a fresh sort of taste for the desk.
Awesome. Elliot Dewberry as an interesting choice. That'd be fairly chaotic. We're going to shoot it over to Sandy. Did we talk to you about the Inner Geekdom stuff, right?
No.
Oh my gosh, I marked you down that I just... Abe, editing. All right, well, why don't you give us your thoughts on Inner Geekdom? First, what are your thoughts on that Inner Geekdom cutscene and also the upcoming match?
No worries. You know what? The cutscene was great. One thing I've noticed about him in the last little while, I mean, he had the thing with Ben Bateman where he challenged him and he got all defensive and protective and very, very not happy with the management about what was going on. And now this one with Donica and Ken before him coming in. Sometimes you hold onto the stick too tight, and you can make a mistake. And I don't think that his skill is in question at all. I think that his confidence might be, because sometimes you can seem really confident, but inside you're not. And then a young buck like Donica comes along, and yeah, he's got some holes. But in what he's strong in, he's really strong in. I'm not saying that there's going to be an upset. I'm just saying I'm pulling for Inman on this one. I hope he wins. I hope he pulls it out, but we'll see. But I've got him picked to win.
Awesome. And so moving on to the desk announcers, how have you liked this so far, and who would you like to see kind of either make their debut or make a reappearance at the desk?
For sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, you mentioned it earlier. I have absolutely been loving Mark and Bibiani on the desk. The couple times they've done it so far, they've been really bouncing off of each other joke-wise, and this last one was the best one yet. They were so on par and on cue with one another. It was the whole getting Bibbs to start saying something, going 5, 4, and cutting him right off. It makes me laugh every time. So who I'd love to see on the desk a little bit more. I don't think we see him enough, but I got to give a shout out to Josh Makuga. I love it when he's on the desk. Him and I mean, I could take an entire match. I swear I could take an entire match of every time. Josh, what do you think? Wild berries. I don't care. Every single time I would be all right with it, because it just makes me laugh all the time. If anybody new, I think somebody mentioned earlier, Andreyko being back on the desk is always awesome, because I love Andreyko. So maybe get Andrew Guy on there. Now that would be fun. So.
Wow, that would be a real interesting desk. We've had bigger heels on the desk before, so I think that could work out pretty good. Jeremy, what do you think about this new kind of desk mix-up happening with the Schmoedown, and who would you like to see show up on the desk soon?
Well, it's kind of shocking. Everybody so far, pretty much everybody wants drinking and violence at the desk so far. So that's an interesting take. As far as my personal opinion on the desk, I've really enjoyed the randomization of the desk so far. Really loving Bibiani and Christian when they were on there, especially for the Inner Geekdom match. They just played off each other so well. Pretty much everybody I've enjoyed on there so far. As far as a new person that we have not seen on the desk yet, I'm going to give a little love to Jay Washington. I think he can really play that commentator thing really well. Obviously, he has a wrestling background. He knows how to cut a promo. I think he can really feed off the commentating thing. You can pair him up with a Mark Ellis or a Christian Harloff, especially in Inner Geekdom. I think he can definitely play off any of those Inner Geekdom players. Kind of psych him out, intimidate him, while not hardly having to do anything too. So I'd really love to see Jay on the desk.
That is a great call. I mean, Jay is like the heel that everyone loves, because there's always one out there that everyone's just like, Jay is a good guy. He's a heel, but I'll still cheer for him when he shows up in a match. So I would love to see him at a desk because he has like the most chaotic energy, and I think he could really throw whoever is co-commentating with him for a loop. Albert, what do you think about this? And who would you like to see show up on the desk in the near future?
Yeah, first of all, I've enjoyed a lot of the pairing, and just a quick thing about the previous match, Mark Ellis and Bibiani, when Bibiani was sleeping. I have no idea what was going on, but that was just fantastic. A pairing that I think will be very interesting is Ken Napsok and Bibiani. I don't know, something about it, I feel like that could be an interesting pairing. And someone who I want to see back, Rachel Cushing, why not? She's been great. I'm not sure if Brienne have ever been at the desk before. If not, then yeah, why not Brienne? I mean, she's dealing with a lot of the Patreon stuff, and she's doing well with Patreon, so why not put her at the desk? Also, some random suggestions, which I think could be very interesting, but probably unlikely. Cody Hall, why not? I mean, he's got experience hosting with the Wangers, and pair him up with Lon Harris. I mean, he's from Screen Junkies. He got some hosting experience too, and a student-professor dynamic will be interesting at the desk. And also Finstock, why not? He's back.
Perfect. Yeah, the Brienne suggestion I think is a fantastic suggestion because she has hosting experience, and that's kind of what you need for people at the desk. You need people who are used to hosting events. You need people who are used to vibing off of other people and moving things forward. And I think she's got a really great take on that, and she also has a very kind of sassy quality that you don't get with a lot of other competitors, and she was one of the people on my list, so I'm glad she was brought up. Last but not least on this one, Malcolm, what did you think about this new trend in this season, and who do you want to see coming up on the desk soon?
I love it. Like Bibbs and Ellis was a perfect combo, and I think we need to see more of that. Especially with Bibbs made the comment like, "Why are the rules so long?" It's like it's something we've all probably been thinking about. But I mean, as for people like Lon Harris is one that I like to see, even if it's just even Makuga Dewberry team up at the desk with both Wildberries, it would be very interesting and random.
Definitely.
And, yeah.
I mean, if you put the Wildberries on anything, it's going to be the most chaotic thing in the whole world. But it would be really funny to
you couldn't
have
put a fireball on the desk for that.
Right. It would just that dynamic on a desk would be ridiculous because they're ridiculous already as a team. So you put them reading the questions out and like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that. Some of the people that I would like to see coming back, because I have really, really enjoyed this take on the Schmoedown so far. There have been so many good pairings and good new people coming in. I loved Jen. I thought that she was a very new type of commentator because she gave a very, very much of an attitude of kind of not dismissal, but when people would say things or jokes in the background, she was very much just like, what are you doing in my studio? And I loved that attitude. I thought it was very much something that was needed because it does break up the normal kind of commentators' silliness or whatever. I thought that new attitude was very welcome. And I've loved Emma. I thought she's worked with 2 different people so far, and she has changed the way that she commentates with each person. And I thought that the way she's done that was fantastic because the first match she commentated with, she was with a type of person that she needed to be more of the jokey kind of person. The next match she commentated with, she needed to be more of the straight-laced, like, here's the question, here's the answer, and the other person makes the jokes. And she handled both of those situations incredibly well. And I want to see her back on the desk very soon. The other people on my list are just people that I want for myself. Nost, because I want to see Nost on everything. He's hilarious. He's a really good guy. And he also, like, he can send barbs out to people, and I think that would be just so funny to have at the desk. And his sense of humor is also a little bit more dry than some of the other people, so I think it could really, really be funny to see. And then why the heck have we not had Sam Levine at the desk yet? The guy has the belt. The guy is hilarious. The guy knows more about all the other competitors than half the people who are playing in the league. And he's probably faced half the people in the league at this point, let's be honest. This guy deserves to be at the desk at some point in the future. I think he could really make a great run at it. I know there's a lot more people that are out there that are competing. These are some of ours. Abe did want to give his opinion on this one as well. So Abe, why don't you let us know what you think about this one?
For those of you guys who were OGs, I don't know if you remember Hal Rodnick calling a match in the 2015 tournament. He was fucking hilarious. He was great. I've been wanting him to come back to the Schmoedown desk. So I'm gonna mention that.
Yeah, that I forgot about that Hal Rudnick match, and that's a great call out because that was one of the funniest matches that has ever been played, and it wasn't because of the competitors; it was because of Hal Rudnick. He might not be the best competitor, but man, the guy can commentate on a match like nobody's business. Some other people who were mentioned off screen, Andrew Guy, John Roca as a pairing would be stupid ridiculous. And Albert brought up, why didn't you bring this up in the actual thing? Do you want to tell us your idea right now?
Yeah, I was just joking, but yeah, Bruce Campbell should come back, definitely.
It's not a joke.
and yeah, for the
cancel Ash versus Evil Dead.
Yeah, for the Hal Rudnick, he should definitely host as Justice Bot. If you guys know Justice Bot, he should host as Justice Bot. That'll be much more interesting.
That sounds perfect. I would love it. And you never joke about Bruce Campbell. We just don't joke about Bruce Campbell.
True.
He's the best. And I love all these ideas. I think these are fantastic. And I can't wait to see who else shows up on the desk soon. I just love this. One of my favorite things that they've been doing on the Schmoedown so far this season. Moving on to the next match of the week. We actually are going to start this match out with an interview we have with Ben Bateman, given by his biggest fan on our channel anyway, because none of the rest of us like team action very much. But Ben Bateman and Matt Kearns are going to give us this little interview. It's very exciting. So why don't you take it away, Matt?
All right. Thank you, Kristen. So, guys, I'm here with one half of Team Action, the boss, Ben Bateman. Ben, how are you doing today?
I've been better, Kearns. I've been better.
I know. I feel the pain. That was tough. It was tough watching you lose to something that cleans Andrew Guy's bathroom. It was really difficult.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I don't know how they let a Roomba in that match. It's you win more in business by taking risks, Turns. I took a risk. I put myself out there to play an inferior opponent, and look what happened.
So I have to ask, this match has been set up for a while. How confident were you going up against Mark Andrico?
Well, I was very confident, but as the date approached and I was in the middle of 3 very, very volatile merger deals, I knew that my mind was going to be divided. I'm able to play a lot of games of mental chess simultaneously, and this was one of those games, so I had confidence in myself, but as I said, business is war. War is violent.
War is
this was
very
much.
Now, you know, a lot of people on the page and on Twitter are going to say, oh, you were terrible, you lost. You had a great first round. You only missed one question. You were one question away from a perfect round. And in round 2, you messed up a little bit. Now, I just have to ask, you went with action adventure, which, you know, you got Spinner's Choice, you went with that. Do you think missing Armageddon, the first Armageddon question, do you think that threw you off at all, or it was whatever?
I'll be real with you here, Kearns. You're a longtime member of the Army, so as much as I want to be a cock and all the cockiness in the world, here's exactly what happened. You know, I spun the wheel. I got Spinner's Choice. Now, I had my team working on, you know, breaking down Andreyko for a while, okay? We had a meeting that morning. We went over everything, and I identified the 67 questions in the history of Schmoedown that he had ever missed. A high density of those questions were in the action-adventure category. Given the opportunity, I knew if I had the opportunity to pick my category, I wanted to put him in a difficult position. Now, there was another category on that wheel I should have taken. A stronger category for me, actually, which is information I don't need to share right now. But I chose to take action-adventure, even though in recent times that category hasn't been great. It's a very broad category.
Yeah, you said in your post-match interview with Jessica it's a very broad category. Because I get myself from even the people at Take 3, they're always like, oh man, Team Action lost on Action Adventure. I'm like, it's broad. Do you know how many movies since movies have been made can be defined as action adventure? So I completely understand.
So what happened was I see the and I decided to take action adventure. And obviously he's already gotten musicals, you know, he's already had his strength. And it's a smart play on Andreyko's part to pick musicals, because it's a tough category for most, and he's obviously good at it. For me, with action adventure, the funny part was, well, there's two things. A, I knew the answer to all 4 questions. So this wasn't a question of I didn't know the answers to 2 of them and I just outright missed them. I got mixed up in my head. I couldn't access the info. Had I gone to multiple choice on either one, I would have gotten 6 points in that round. No question. Not even, and it's not, I mean, I've covered both of those movies on Action Movie Anatomy within the last 18 months. I've seen both movies at least a half dozen times. So I'm not saying that if I had taken a little extra time, I would have necessarily gotten there. But with multiple choice, no question. Yeah. Definitely missing Billy Bob Thornton and William Finchner. I mean, it's an understandable miss. He is the other character who has that role.
Yeah, he's the main astronaut, but yeah, he's not running NASA, so I understand.
It was a tough miss, no doubt, and I should have gone to multiple choice. I was trying to play with supreme confidence, knowing that he had a strong round and he's a strong player. I had to get there. And once I missed that one, it threw me off on the second question. You can see as I answer, when I say Jules, which is obviously the Pulp Fiction character, not the Die Hard character, I go to repeat the question and I say it before he gets down to 0. If you'll notice when I play, I always go to 0 always before repeats and always before the answer, unless I'm 100% certain, because you have to play the game correctly. So in that moment, I was rattled. Obviously, I recovered with the final 2 questions in the category, but round 2 was really rough for me. And if I hadn't given away that 2-point steal, the irony here is that I was correct. He missed one of the 2 steals, which was my whole entire strategy in taking the category anyway. But I couldn't capitalize.
Yeah, and again, you know, to support Action Army here, that was another Sam Jackson character, so it's not like you were thinking of some other actor. And I mean, it's like Sam Witwer has said, you know, it's not what you know and what you don't know, it's what you know in the fraction of a second when they ask the question. So, completely understand, you know, everyone is going to say, because I love Armageddon, that I hate you, or I don't hate you, I still love you, Ben. So, this is a silly question, but I know Kristen and the rest of the people in the summer are going to want me to ask it. Do you think Andreyko got into your head? If you don't want to answer because it's stupid, I understand.
No, Android did not get into my head. That's not what happened. I got in my own head. I played too clever. Now, who's to say if I had taken my other category in round 2 that I would have gotten 8 points? I don't know. It doesn't matter what category you take. You still get tough questions. Could have been worse. I didn't get 1 out of 8. You know, it sucked. I feel that I'm a much better player than how I played that day. But no, that's not what got in my head. I just, you know, I stumbled. I had a tough moment. It's weird when you know because you're gonna ask me about round 3 in a second, and when we talk about round 3, that's a question of not knowing the answer.
Yeah,
that's just information that I don't have. If you miss questions you don't know the answer to, not everybody knows everything, and there are blind spots. So that's different. But in round 2, the hard part about that is I knew the information, I couldn't get there. And I'm not sure what happened to me, but I think I got in my own head. and I think I tried to be a little too clever for my own good.
Well, you already pretty much answered what my question would have been for round 3, so let's just go with this. So sadly you lost. I'm going to put quotations around this. You got into your own head. So we saw recently in Team Trek's most recent match, Scott Mance getting very handsy with you, which I specifically remember Tad over there with his contract saying that no physical, like, where is Mance's prison sentence, first and foremost, but second, now you have lost and that is terrible, but is Mance Man next on your road to the title?
I mean, Mance Man is basically just, Andreyko's a real opponent, and Mance is just, just keeping me warm. That's basically what I'm doing. I mean, all that's going to be, it's just going to be another day with the dude. Mance is literally target practice. So, I'm not worried about Scott.
It's like the beginning of Rocky 3 when he's fighting all they're great fighters, but they aren't Clubber Lang. I get it. That's
Cindy. I'll get Cindy to give his house a call. I'll get her to say 1 or 2 words, and that'll get in his head. That's how easy it is for me to mess with Scott Mance. I'll have my assistant get in his head. It's not necessary.
All right. So recently we saw you and Andrew, who thankfully is out of prison now. We all saw at the free for all. You guys sent your challenge out to the Shire Wolves for this live event. They accepted. Coming up June 2nd, you are going to be taking them on live. What are your hopes? What are your predictions on this live match?
Kearns, I have never been more excited about a live performance of anything in my entire life. I can't freaking wait. My goal is to entertain the shit out of everybody involved. My goal is to be pure entertainment, to show up with the intensity and the fire that made Team Action who we were. Andrew Guy learned a lot of tricks in prison. A lot, okay? Mm-hmm. He spent 3 months just literally benching. He just benched. That's all he did. So, I mean, he's got an enormous chest. You're going to see it. It's going to be insane.
And, Clark Wolf and Rachel Cushing they're strong players. They showed against the Lions Den that they're a strong team. You guys have gone up against strong opponents before. Do Clark Wolf and Rachel Cushing scare you guys at all, or is this just more a spectacle for the audience?
The only thing that scares me is a severe market downturn. It has nothing to do with Clark or Rachel. It's all numbers to me, Kearns. Mm-hmm. Just crunching the numbers. And we have things planned for Clark and Rachel. Okay, we have ideas in mind. I don't need to say much more than that. So I hope you have yourself a ticket, son.
I hope you guys are selling a ton of tickets. I actually think the minute that Team Action was announced, ticket sales went up by like 1,000%. I think that is actually a frank stat. I don't know if that's true, but
1,077.1% to be exact.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Thank you, Ben, for doing this interview. You kicked ass in this match. You're gonna kick ass in your next one, and especially at the live event. And I'm gonna throw it back to you guys.
Thanks, Matt and Ben. We want to thank Ben so much for his time on that interview. As much as we joke about not liking him, he is a fantastic guy, and I'm really glad that we got the chance to interview him. And he's just really cool. And it's so bad that the match turned out the way it did for him, but we benefited off of it because we got the interview with him instead of him being on the rundown this week. So, all right. So this match I thought was actually very interesting. Both people for the first round got 7 out of 8. I think Mark probably should have gotten that full 8 points. And then you had a really crazy round 2. And that's when it definitely all went downhill for Ben. But outside of that, we had some really cool things before the match and after the match. We had finally the return of Booker T. I've been asking about him for weeks, and here he is. And I'm super excited because Booker T is hilarious, and I love Booker T. So that's awesome. He's back. We also had some weird things in the studio, I thought, where it looked really dark at the desk for this match. Maybe the lighting wasn't the same as normal, but we also had a lot of new pictures on there. Some of the favorite moments from last year and some of the previous matches were up there finally. And yeah, there was some studio things, I think, that were in there this week. Outside of that, there was a lot of stuff to break down within the match itself. So we're going to get going with that. And we're going to start it out with Jeremy. What did you think about this match? And how excited are you that Mark's finally, after 6 months, back in the Schmoedown?
Well, being an admin on his fan group, comically reviewed that they're interested in joining his fan group. Honestly, the match to be a little bit closer. I'm surprised that Mark won it as easily as he did. Obviously, the turning point again is, team action member getting spinner's choice, taking action adventure, and getting hardly anything out of it. I mean, I can't figure it out. It's almost unexplainable how, they claim to be nothing true. It just makes no sense. Mark, he'll obviously stay in the top 10 with that victory. And interesting about who he called out in the post-match, talking about how he potentially wants to play. That's going to be that match potentially materialized. Honestly, I do feel bad for Ben Bateman in this aspect. I commend him for having the cojones to challenge Mark Andreyko, and clearly, as many people would think. And there he plays as hard as he can. And all everybody talks about is Andrew Guy. And everybody talks about the tackle. They talk about all this stuff. He hasn't played a singles match and gets 4 shirts within a span of 30 minutes. And Ben is trying to win. So I kind of feel sorry for him in that aspect. That doesn't build any tension between the two. Obviously, with the two getting ready to play Shire Wolves in front of a live audience, if that doesn't go well, that could be very interesting what that like.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting that you think that this is going to create a wedge between the two. I've been saying very similar things about the Patriots for like a year now. So, and we see how that's gone down. But the thing that I really found interesting about this match between Mark and Ben is recently people who have returned after long hiatuses to the Schmoedown have not really had great matches, and Mark really hasn't played in a very long time, and he had a very good match. I mean, ran the table in round 2, almost ran the table in round 1, and really didn't get a chance to answer much in round 3, but man, he was so impressive. I just really thought that he kind of broke that theory I had of people taking hiatuses and then being rusty when they come back. And Abe did call me out on the studio looking dark thing. It's called contrast. Fine. I didn't like the contrast that they chose to light the studio in that day. The competitors looked great. I just didn't like how they lit the desk. So moving on to Brooklyn. What did you think about this match and the kind of dynamic between Bateman and Andreyko?
Oh shit! That's me, isn't it? You, as soon as you said somebody's name and you cut, and that's the only part to cut out. So it's like perfect. Excellent.
Before, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Anyways, as somebody who created Comically Robotic Andreyko fan page, obviously I had Ben Bateman winning. No, Andreyko, I knew he was going to win this one. I mean, with Ben Bateman, with his heel persona that he's sticking with, he's achieved that, because I absolutely hated those rose-colored glasses that he had. Those were awful. And Sandy will know exactly what I mean whenever I say this. Andrew Guy needs to be a backbencher at the House of Commons. He was just yelling shit until something landed, and was glorious. Like, it just reminded me of being in Ottawa and like listening to these guys just yell back and forth, and it's just, I mean, like it worked in a way that it almost fueled Andreyko, because you saw Andreyko have new releases, and then somebody yelled something, and then Andreyko's like, all right, I'm gonna spin again, and then got Spinner's Choice. So I feel like Andreyko thrives under that kind of trash talk.
I laugh that you bring that up, because I studied a lot of politics in college, and so I got to watch a lot of live parliamentary kind of things. That's accurate. So you have Guy on one side and then Jay Washington on the other side, just yelling boo, because that was totally Jay yelling boo during the match. Between the two of them, I think you got Parliament covered. That's funny. Okay. Politics are hilarious, guys. Come on. Moving on. Sandy, what did you think about this match?
Okay, yeah, so you guys are 100% right. That is exactly how our Parliament sounds every single time. It's that awesome. The match. Okay, so let's start. I'll chime in on the studio, the way it looked. I'm just happy that it's turning into a studio again. Where we've got some memorabilia, we've got some pictures, we've got some memories, we've got some stuff like that on the wall. And yeah, the competitor section looked really, really great. And Andreyko's little at the beginning, magic over on the screens was great. Ben Bateman had we mentioned it before, but the cojones, to challenge Andreyko. I doubted it every single moment, because Andreyko, the android, is my second favorite competitor of all time. I love him. He's great, and he's an absolute buzzsaw. And people forget, just because he's had some losses, they were deep losses. Like, they were like lots of points, last question kind of losses. He's not to be trifled with, and Ben Bateman found that out. Unfortunately, he found it out, and it was TKO. Andreyko didn't get to any of his third round questions whatsoever. I don't think it's going to affect team action whatsoever. I think they're just going to keep being there. Where's the belts, Harloff? Where's the belts? Oh yeah, absolutely. Brooklyn just corrected me. He had to answer his two-pointer, so it wasn't a TKO. But let's not forget what happened on the wheel round. Mark got player's choice with his second spin. Ben Bateman got player's choice too, and they both picked the category they wanted. And when he started picking action, I was like, don't do it. You saw what happened. It's like picking Star Wars or something like that. You've got to, the questions are so deep now that don't go get another category that you're good in and go to that one, because it's going to be less difficult for you. And he found that out. Mark almost cleared the whole board, 7 out of 8, and Ben didn't do that well. And then Andreyko got that big 2-point steal, and almost another 2-point steal if he'd have been able to pull that answer off too. So valiant effort for Ben. Just not in the cards. And look out, anybody who wants. I'd love to see him versus McWeeny. Both of them are absolute juggernauts, and I would love to see that match. It's like a Bibiani all over again, just an absolute beast of a man.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing that up, because you do kind of forget that Andreyko is one of these competitors who is near the top of the pack, and it's just because his record isn't great and he doesn't play that often that you forget how good he is. And I always love watching Andreyko play, because he comes with a lot of focus, and you watch him play and you're just like, he knows what he's talking about, and he just writes the answers down, very focused. And like, man, when he's focused, he is in that match. It's very cool to watch him play, and just, he zeroes in on those answers too. It's very impressive. Malcolm, what did you think about this match between Ben Bateman and Mark Andreyko?
Oh yeah, I mean, this was every way that I expected. I mean, and this is the android that remembered from when he first debuted against Bibiani, just barely missing questions. Because I think he only missed the one question of the ones he actually did answer. and went to multiple choice for one of the other ones. But apart from that, it's like he was pretty much perfect the whole game. It's like, and I love the storyline behind this. Because in the pre-credit interviews, there was like Ben saying he tried to back out of this match, is like to take on Mance, but Emma wasn't letting anything happen. Like he was going to have to go through this with this match, whether he liked it or not. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, and that call out that Ben had to Mark happened so long ago, I forgot about it. So then when the match was announced coming up that he was playing Mark, I was like, why? I thought he was playing Mance. And then you start remembering back to like months and months ago, and you're like, oh, he really did call out Mark. That's right. So that's it's a weird turn of events, but I think that maybe him going up against Mance now makes a lot more sense anyway. So Albert, on this match, what kind of caught your eye and what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, definitely. This match was very, very fun and very close. First of all, I want to say I'm glad Booker T is back. Honestly sort of forget about him, but when he's back, I'm like, oh my god, he's back. This is great. This is fantastic. I never realized I needed him. But yeah, Andreyko, I believe, is very underrated. His 2 losses was against Bibiani and Cushing, and that Bibiani loss was when Bibiani got like the perfect game throughout, and I believe Mark only missed 1 question. I don't really remember. I haven't seen that match in a while. But yeah, those are his 2 losses. I really like the entrance for Mark and Draco, both Rachel and Emma doing the Friday the 13th, which I believe Enrico used Jason's mask when he first revealed that he was part of 5 Club, right? So that's like a throwback thing. For the wheel part, I really, when he chose musicals, I was a bit surprised because I thought he should have stick with the new releases. But then in the post-game interview, when he mentioned like, oh, Bateman goes to press junket, so he might, if I miss some, he might get the steal. That is something that I didn't thought about, so that's really smart on Enrico's part. But the thing that I want to talk about more is, I mean, the game is fantastic, but the stuff that's happening around the game is way more insane to me. First of all, Tristan, I sort of agree the desk looked a bit dark, but it doesn't really bother me too much. The one that distracts me is the pictures at the back behind the commentators. That was great, but I was a bit distracted at the beginning trying to figure out what those pictures are and who they are. And another picture that Brooklyn pointed out, I think, when Mark and Rico just changed the background and everything. That is, I don't know who came up with that, if that is Mark himself or is that Christian that came up with that, but that is really brilliant. That might throw Ben off a bit with the distraction of those images, but that's just fantastic. And Andrew Guy screaming throughout the whole game is hilarious. And I'm not sure who did this, but it sounds like Bibiani, but someone, when Andrew Guy was screaming, someone just screamed out, "We don't like you!" And that cracks me up.
That would be Bibs. he likes to yell that he doesn't like people. It's endearing of him. Yeah, and I agree with you. The stuff Andreyko was doing, I thought was really funny. But I think more importantly, you notice that when action kind of as a whole has bad games or worse games, because I don't think any of their games so far have been terrible. Arguably, that match against Top 10 is not a great match, but I don't think they played terribly. But the matches that they've not been their best at are ones where their competitors have been able to throw back a lot of that shade at them. And Mark, I think, did a really great job of doing that. And he did not let Ben or Andrew get into his head. He did not take any of their crap. And I think that might have been a really good key to this victory and just maybe shaking Ben up a little bit. It's hard to tell. The other thing is, Andreyko, like, that is a real hidden strength of his, because he has never had musicals as one of his strengths. And that man ran the table on musicals. And I'm a really big musical fan. I pride myself on that being one of my strengths. And there were ones I would have had to gone multiple choice on. And he knew them right away. Now I knew Betty as the name of Rizzo, but that's a different story completely. But it was just really impressive to see him have that kind of depth of knowledge, because musicals is a very broad category. And he really, man, he should change one of his strengths to musicals. That was really impressive. And Ben brought up a really interesting point in his post-credit where he basically said, like, action wasn't one of my strengths. They just put it on there. And why did you go to action for your spinner's choice? Because new releases, in my mind, would have been a much better category for Ben. I mean, he watches so many new releases. He really does. They watch pretty much everything, and they cover a lot of it on their shows. And I just don't know why he wouldn't have gone to new releases. I think the match would have been a lot more competitive if he had, because I think that's much more of his strength than action is. Not that he's bad at them, but it's action adventure. And I think it's like that horror thriller genre. Sometimes you're like, all right, horror, that's my game. And then you get in there and you get thriller questions. And you're like, what the heck is this? I don't even like Michael Jackson. That's a joke. I love Michael Jackson. So yeah, that was interesting. I would have loved to see how that match would have been different if he had picked a different category for Spinner's Choice. But, you know, you can't win the game on ifs, and he didn't win. And, you know, as much as we like to rag on the heels, I think Ben is a good competitor. I think he just hasn't found his legs in singles yet. And I think he could at some point, because he's got categories that he's very good at. I mean, he got 7 out of 8 in that first round, and it was not a super easy first round either. It was a pretty well balanced first round, and his 5-pointer I thought was very difficult, and he nailed that 5-pointer. So, I mean, I think he's got more to show than he has shown so far. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the future. We do have that opening credit scene to talk about. That post-credit scene, I don't think we'll do a whole big thing on that one. It was hilarious, but I don't think we need to talk about it in depth. If you want to mention how hilarious it was, you're more than welcome to do that. But we are going to talk about the opening credit scene because, again, we see someone trying to take away Brienne's #1 contender spot. So you have Ken coming in and saying, hey, I want this #1 contender spot for the Star Wars match against Sam. Now, I think we can kind of tell where that story is going, that Brienne is definitely not going to give him that spot because, well, he's got a 3-way match coming up between Alex Damon and Joseph Scrimshaw for the #1 contender spot. So unless he loses that match and tries again, we'll see. But it's just funny how they're doing this. So I'm wondering if it's going to be an ongoing thing where we see a new competitor come in and ask for that spot each week until Brienne just starts going crazy. Or let's theorize a little bit about what some of this means and how it's been, 2 matches in a row of almost the exact same opening credit scene. So we're going to start it out with Malcolm. What are your thoughts about this one in particular? And then how do you see this developing in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, with this one, it seemed more natural because it was Ken Knapsack and it's something that a heel would do anyway. And it was just pretty straightforward. I think we might see next week maybe a team asking Brienne for the title shot, then maybe a singles compared to the day after. But I mean, if it's not leading anywhere, I hope it does lead somewhere though, because if it's going to be an ongoing thing of just a different person asking Brienne, it could get really tired really quickly, and so I hope they don't drag it out too long if it's going to be something like that. So
yeah, I agree with you. I hope that this is not every single match where they do this, because I think I would go crazy, and I think Brienne will go crazy, and we don't want that. But Jeremy, what do you think about this post-credit scene? It's an opening credit scene, but that's fine. You can talk about the post-credit scene too if you'd like. But what did you think about it, and where would you like this storyline to kind of progress?
Yeah, I thought episode 2 of Who's That Knocking on My Door starring Brianne Chandler was actually quite entertaining. Ken coming in, again talking about how the system has screwed me and all that junk. Yeah, I can't get enough of Ken bringing that up. But Brianne was kind of the first one to finally call him out about the, everything else. Once the question's asked, or once something starts and time runs out, you finish it off. Pretty much giving the no excuses route. But it was very nice chemistry between the two. I'd like to see them have a little more confrontations and promos a little more often, because they seem to really work well together. As far as the post match, wow, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Can't wait to do a champ lunch with somebody. What? That's right. Hey, Brooklyn, I am a champ. Remember, Wrestling Trivia Showdown champ. So if anyone wants to have a champ lunch with me, I'll be waiting at the house.
Well, perfect. Jeremy's making my transitions for me, Brooklyn. What do you think about this Brianne Ken opening credit scene? And would you like to have a champions lunch with Jeremy?
I mean, yeah. Again, Ken thrives on this kind of stuff. I looked at it as kind of like a Whose Line Is It Anyway party quirks, where you had Ken coming in, Brianne's like, all right, well, what are you doing now? I actually think they could go some interesting routes with this. I would like to see maybe like a William Bibiani, where it's like, hey, Brianne, I know I already have the #1 contention shot, but if you could just like give me the title shot as like a backup, like that'd be kind of cool. I think they could play with that. But yeah, in terms of Jeremy's championship lunch, he might not even have that title come I believe it's Wednesday, April the 24th, where he takes on Harry Broadhurst, but that's a whole other story. Abe was mentioning. Yeah, Abe was mentioning in the chat how the whole Andrew guy like flirting with Clark. God, that was cringy. That was that was not fun at all. I don't know why they're trying to go with that storyline. It just seems really, really creepy, and it doesn't fit the line that they're going with Andrew's character, where he's just a heel that's full of it, and will say anything just to get somebody riled up. But yeah.
It was a little cringy. Cringy. But I can tell you right now, between that and the post-credit scene, I was like on my side laughing because it just hit me. It hit me right in the funny bone. I thought that was really funny. So good on you, Schmoedown. You really got me with that one. Albert, what did you think about the Brianne and Ken scene? And then if you have any thoughts about that post-credit as well.
Yeah, the Brianne and Ken, definitely it's a follow-up from the previous ones. I don't know how long they're gonna do this. Hopefully not too long, because yeah, like you guys said, if they keep on going on with this, it might get dull. But for someone who might ask her again, I don't know, someone maybe from the Viper Squad, maybe Stacy, that would be interesting. I mean, what's it called? Previous partner, former partner. So that could be interesting if Stacy asked Brianne for the title match, because she got the free-for-all winner got title match, not #1 contender match, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, she is the #1 contender. She doesn't have
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, there is a lot of #1 contender match possibly. I mean, we got Clark and Kalinowski, and Bibiani also got #1 contender match. So there's a lot that could happen there. But yeah, for the post credit, it's definitely just something hilarious to see. It's like how MCU have 2 post credit scenes, and usually the second one, like the shawarma or something like that, just for fun, no really plot point, anything. So that one was fun. But I find it interesting that not only this, but I mean, since the free for all and throughout, I mean, in the beginning of this match, Andrew Guy has been like disrespecting Mural the whole time. I find it interesting that Harloff actually allowed this, because Mural is a champion for a reason. So I just find it interesting that they allow this to happen, and they even sell merch now with Andrew Guy like disrespecting Mural, because I feel like if Mural comes back, then Mural could whoop their ass 2 versus 1 in a handicap match. So
I would love Merle to just come back and Andrew Guy just be disrespecting him and him just bust down a door and be like, all right, sucker, you want me, you got me. Like that's like dream come true. Please make that happen. I would probably just like jump out a window at that point because like that's crazy. I'd have to top the craziness of that moment with something even more crazy like jumping through a window. Probably not the best in my condition, but we'll see what happens when we get there. Sandy, you're the last one to let us know your thoughts on the opening credit sequence, as well as if you have any additional thoughts on that post-credit. But yeah, let us know what you think about it, man.
So I agree with almost everybody here, and I had a couple of thoughts of my own. So far, it's the desperate people. It's the Kalinowski who's desperate for a win. It's Ken because he's scared. You know, if he doesn't get through his next match, he needs to get to that Star Wars belt all over again. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if you see top 10 knock on that door before we start, before we stop this little merry-go-round of people seeing Brienne. I agree. I agree. Earlier, somebody said Stacy. Why wouldn't Stacy go in there and try to play off of their friendship and what they had before? You know, and maybe not even for her, but maybe for Jay and Inner Geekdom. You know what I mean? You know, he's played well. Who knows? But I think it's the stench of desperation that has people knocking on Brienne's door, and she's got all the power now. Somebody mentioned earlier that Andrew Guy at the creepy hitting on Clark Wolf stuff. That's yeah. It just we'll just move on from that one, and then yeah, you've got, in my opinion, the best moment of the free-for-alls, both of them, was Andreyko's moment that you cleared the murderer's row table. That's me personally. That's my favorite thing. Once again, my personal opinion, the worst moment of free-for-all history is when Andrew Guy tricked us all thinking that he was Dan Murrell. Everybody who saw me on the Take 3 reaction saw me flipping out because I was so excited that Dan was coming back. I was so excited, and then that little son of a mother So I would love for Dan to be seeing all this going, yeah, you know what? You know, wrestling fans know when you say one more match. I think Merle's got quite a few more matches in him, but I would love him to come in and just put an absolute serious beating on Andrew Guy. So as far as what happened, Yodi did it perfect. Didn't say nothing, just put his sunglasses on, grabbed his phone and walked out, and then got security involved. That was great. So I love it.
Yeah, and Albert also had a really funny reaction to that Andrew Guy thing as well. It was on Twitter, and it got shared around quite a lot, so congratulations on that. But we all like to laugh at people's pain, and man, you look pained at that moment. Congratulations. But we are going to move on, and we're kind of going into a discussion on this one just about some of the new heels we've been having the last couple years, because we've kind of it's always hard to like the heels, but man, a good heel is completely necessary for this format. And there are some fantastic heels in this league, but there are some really good ones kind of moving up in the ranks. And I really have never been, like, when Team Action first came on the scene, I was not a really big fan of their shtick. I didn't quite like the way they played heel, but the longer they've been in the league, the more I've appreciated their take on it. And I think that they do bring a new level to the heel persona, because they're very, like, it's very much like we're the best, it's all about me kind of thing. And I don't know any other heels that would wear those red glasses other than maybe Tom Tagnino. But man, I think he'll wear pretty much anything, so that's not saying much. But we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, who are our favorite heels in the league. Let's give the heels a little bit of love. They get a lot of sass on this show a lot because we don't have a lot of people who love to root for heels. But everyone loves a good heel. So let's get that discussion going. Malcolm, out of the heels that we've kind of seen in the past couple, we can just go whenever, but any of the new people as well, who are kind of your favorites, and, what about them makes them, good for the Schmoedown?
Well, I mean, a couple of heels which I need no explanation for why they're up there. It's like, is Tom Dagnino. I mean, he's up. You need no explanation. He's good at that. And even Robert Meyer Burnett, I don't know if he's still heel or what's going on with him, but I mean, he's just always, ever since he was part of the Four Horsemen, like, he's still is keeping on with that heel persona, and he's just really good, and he seems to really enjoy it as well. And as for some like new up and coming heels, like Janine the Machine, I think is really getting into this heel role quite a bit and starting to really enjoy it. I don't think we've actually had any other new heels in this year. Like a lot of teams which we don't really know where they're going with yet. So.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Janine. I think that she has dropped so much sass at so many competitors. I think her Twitter exchanges have, if you're not following her on Twitter, her Twitter exchanges between competitors have been some of the funniest that I've ever read. And recently she got Mike Kalinowski to a point where he challenged her and Jay to a 2-on-1 match because she had just talked so much smack at him. And this was not something that was planned at all. It might not even ever happen, but geez, like there's a reason she's a machine, because she is a machine at smack talk. Sandy, what are your thoughts on some of the heels in the league, and who are some of your, newer favorite heels that have come out of the league?
Sure, and that's a great question. I mean, yeah, I think you have the Lions Den as, your top heel faction, especially when they're all congregated into one place, like when they're all together. It's one thing to have one or two of them hanging out, but when the whole den is there, it can be really intimidating to see them, and they can intimidate a lot of people and just get all kinds of bad. Guys like Action, like Team Action, they play a great game. I still think that people like Critically Acclaimed, are good at playing the heel role. A lot of people wouldn't say that Team Top That. Jim David has come out with some venom against some people. I don't necessarily would call them maybe a heel team, but more of a I don't just give a damn kind of team. Who I think. But as for any upcoming ones, you know what? It doesn't matter if whatever they're doing behind the scenes is working, because I watch every Tuesday and every Friday. So you know what? I like it. I like the mystery sometimes. It's great to conjecture and think about what possibly could happen. But I would never have seen that Breanne Chandler heel turn. She was so sweet and so innocent. Then all of a sudden, bam, she's this righteously, bad woman, and you loved her for doing it, and you just never saw it. So I'll leave it up to them guys to surprise me of who can be the next good heel in the league, or the next up and comer.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that they do a really good job of making heel turns feel very natural. And the one with Breanne, I thought was very good. Some of the, specifically like when Top 10 went from being heel to face, like that was so natural, because I had been calling that turn for like months. I was like, they're going to turn face. This season, they're turning face. And they did, because it just felt like the progression that their storyline was taking. But they do a really good job making those turns feel like they're a part of the game, and it's really interesting. So I can't wait to see who's next, Mike Kalinowski, to turn heel Mike Kalinowski. So we're gonna move on to Albert. Which heels do you think bring the most to the Schmoedown in terms of that attitude that you have to have for this kind of format?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, like you said, Mike Kalinowski possibly could be a heel, especially you did mention Janine, and I did saw that Twitter exchange, and Mike was vicious in that Twitter exchange. So yeah, more heel watch for Mike over there. As for interesting heels, upcoming heels, Donica is definitely interesting. I mean, him now is part of the Lions Den, so yeah, he's definitely intimidating. Plus his size, he's huge. Jay Washington is definitely a great heel. But yeah, I do think the Lions Den is like as a whole the strongest community of heels, but like the best in terms of being a heel is definitely hands down to me is Team Action. And in today's match alone, I'm like, I mean, yesterday I watched the action movie Anatomy, and that's their show, and they're very lovable in that show. But as soon as as soon as Bateman enter and Guy enter, I was like, oh God, for God's sake, it's like I directly hate them somehow, and that makes them like such a great heel. And one of my favorite moments for Team Action being a heel is, I believe this is their second match, and this is against Nerds Watch, when they become a face for one match and they bring out their parents. That was so absurd, but that was so fantastic. And if I'm not wrong, in the post game, they directly become heel again after being a face throughout the game. So that is just fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that makes a great heel is when they're just legitimately very nice people in real life, and then when they come into a competition, they're just vicious. And that's basically every single heel that you see in the competition. Like, I got to see Mark Donica play Jared, and he had a very big heel turn in that episode with choosing the Lions Den, and his post-credit or post-match interview, I think, was very heelish. And then he walked out of the room from that post-match interview, and he was talking to Emma, and he was just all smiles and like talking and like very animated and happy. And like that is like really, I think, what makes a great heel is someone who can turn it on when the cameras are on them and just really be that evil presence that you kind of need to make this all work. Jeremy, who do you kind of view as the top-notch heels in the league, or at least the ones that you kind of gravitate to the most?
Well, ever since his turn happened, Ken Knapsack has been public enemy #1 for me ever since he stabbed poor Rachel in the back. That was like the most devastating moment of Schmoedown last year for me. Janine, as many of us have brought up, I think she really plays off Jay really well, and it really adds a good vibe to her character. But I got to give some love to our current interim commissioner, Thad Williams. All those damn contracts. Yeah, everybody loves a good heel commissioner and all that. And I'm just waiting for somebody to finally just walk up to him and rip one of the contracts up. But they know I'll just come up and sue them for trademarking. So yeah, I guess no one's going to do that. So gotta love that heel commissioner. Gotta love Thad. Gotta love Ken. Gotta love Janine. Gotta love all the heels. All the heels are great.
Leave it to the king of gifts to bring up one of his gifts. I mean, that's just fantastic, man. And Brooklyn, out of the heels in the league, who do you kind of gravitate to, and which ones do you think are bringing the most to the league?
So the ones that, or the one in particular that I kind of enjoy the most is actually Jeff Snyder. And I know he's gotten some heat in the last little bit. He is for me the definition of a smart heel, where he will point out everything wrong in the game, where it's like, oh hey, it's not my fault that this is happening. Like I'm just pointing out every single flaw so that I can try and get an edge. I think he's great. And then like, yeah, when somebody was mentioning the Lions Den, like when they're together, they just cause havoc and it's just awesome. I love watching it. In terms of possibly Mike Kalinowski KO turning heel, Mike Kalinowski. When this conversation was happening, I instantly thought of like a Goldust-y character turning heel, and I would love to see Adam Girdler take on that role of just like being this weird, bizarre person, and just like still being silent, but but like going out in like these different heavy makeup cosplays, and I feel like that would work well if Mike Kalinowski were to turn heel. Mike Kalinowski.
Mike Kalinowski. All right, yeah, and we mentioned a lot of the people that I really look up to for being strong heels in the league. I think Tom takes a lot of crap, and he is one of the only heels that I've never really seen break under that pressure that the fans give him, and he deserves a ton of credit for that because he really is fantastic at what he does, but in real life conversations, a fantastic guy who makes up or potentially doesn't make up some incredibly ridiculous stories. I can never tell when I talk to him. But some of the new people that I've seen that I've been really interested in is I would consider Lon Harris a bit of a heel. And between him and critically acclaimed, they're the heels that are like the Bond villain heels, right? They're like very like quiet in their evilness. And sometimes Bibbs isn't, but I never really viewed Bibbs or Whitney as very much of the traditional heel because they're a little more happy than most of the other ones are. But I think that they have that kind of conniving, maniacal kind of thing hidden inside of them. And I think that they kind of they bring a different type of heel to the Schmoedown, a more of a intellectual type, this is where you die, Mr. Bond kind of heel. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's not all the same tone. And I think that they definitely deserve more credit for some of the stuff they're doing. They obviously aren't the heels that people are actively rooting against as often as, the Lion's Den or Team Action. But at the same time, they do obviously give something to that as well. And Albert does bring up Finstock. You got to bring this up when it's your turn, man. You're giving good stuff.
I just thought of it. I mean, like, it's interesting what they're going to do with Finstock and Dagnino now. I have no idea what's going to happen with that.
And Bobby Gucci.
Yeah.
And we cannot forget Bobby Gucci.
Three personas.
3 personas. The man has more personas than anyone I've ever met. I'm still waiting.
That'd be awesome.
Wow.
I'm still waiting for the Tom Finstock match to happen. I don't know how they'll pull it off. They'll figure out a way to make it happen, but I need this in my life more than I need the match between Nick Mundy and Brett to happen at some point. That's a lie. I need the Mundy Brett match first.
This will never happen, but Tom Dagnino, Finstock, and Bobby Gucci takes on Mankind, Dude Love, and Cactus Jack in a 6-man tag team match.
6 men, but how many of them are actual individual men? We will never know. So that's our discussion on heels and also on that second match. And we want to thank all the heels for being the people that we love to hate. It's not easy, but you guys all do it very well. So thank you guys for everything you do for the league. Moving on, we do have our fantasy update. Now, I did threaten to cancel this update, but I've been told that I'm not allowed to threaten to cancel the update because it's Matt's segment, and I gave it to him. So, Matt, why don't you let us know about that fantasy league? Steven.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Meanie here for the fantasy update. So, we got in first place Super Epic X Team with 249 points. In second place, we got Immortan and Schmoeboys, 244 points. Third place, we got Team Quaggies with 225 points. Fourth place, we got the Penguins with 179 points. Then we got in fifth place, Tiny Garrett's with 117 points. Sixth place, we got the Yordi Alliance with 113 points. And in seventh place, we got That Movie Geek with 74 points. Sucks to suck. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of discrepancies. It's gonna be an interesting second half of the season to see if any changes happen. But I'll be here updating you for us. So that's it. There's no trades. No one trade. Why would anyone trade? They got good teams. So Vinny, you'll follow me at VinnyStallone76 on Twitter. Yeah, so I don't Get out of here.
Good. All right, good update, Matt. Kind of. I'm a little disappointed with whatever stupid team is winning right now. I don't know.
Winning. Do you have a problem with that?
No, it's just I think that your team is dumb, and I don't like that I'm losing. But we'll see how the next couple of weeks. I'm still in second. Let's just put it that way. We're gonna move on to something that I like a little bit more than what just happened in our fantasy league, and that's gonna be the match on April 27th. And this is the match between Clark Wolf and Mike Kalinowski. Will we see him go full heel? Will we see him potentially win this match? We honestly don't know. So we're going to talk about this and just give our predictions for what we think this match is going to bring. So we're going to start this one out, and we're going to go straight to Jeremy. What are your predictions for this match next Friday?
I think I would like to think that Kalinowski can put up a better fight than he has been, but ultimately nothing has really shown me that he's gonna get it done. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with Clark. I think Clark will take it, become the new #1 contender, and it'll be interesting to see what will happen when she plays Sam Levine, because as we all know, she has defeated Sam Levine in the past.
Definitely, she really has. Malcolm, what are your predictions for this match between Mike Kalinowski and Clark Wolf?
Well, I mean, based on Mike's performance in the triple threat at the start of the year, I'm going to go with maybe Clark Wolf to win this, because Mike's performance in triple threat, like, he only got 4 points the whole in that match, and so I think Clark's taking the way of the #1 contender spot.
I'm kind of with you on that, but we'll see what happens. Brooklyn, who do you think is going to walk away with that #1 contender spot between the two of these competitors?
I think that Kalinowski has the edge, purely for the reason of this. And if anybody's a poker player, you will understand what I mean. When they're tilted, whenever they both get a bunch of answers wrong, I find Clark will stay tilted. Whereas Kalinowski, when he's in a slump, he can kind of get back to that balance that you really need in those #1 contenders matches. Though I do believe if Kalinowski loses, do expect him to go heel. I feel like that fits the storyline best, but I will give the edge to Kalinowski by 3.5 points.
That's a very specific amount of points, and I've never seen a half point in the Schmoedown yet. So. Over-unders. We'll see how accurate your prediction is on 3.5. No, I understand what you're talking about. I'm just giving you a hard time. Albert, what are your predictions for this match coming up on Friday?
I'm predicting, well, hopefully a close match, because usually close match are the best kind of match. But I feel like Clark have the edge. I do believe Clark have more trivia knowledge in general, but once again, this is a game, so anything could happen. But yeah, I do believe Clark have the edge on this one. And as for Kalinowski, if he does lose this one, this is going to be his 3rd loss in a row from the Ultimate Schmoedown and then the #1 contenders match, and this one, if he do lose, so he might literally turn heel in this one. So yeah.
I'm kind of predicting that if he loses, he's gonna go heel. Which kind of makes me want him to lose more than I already do. So last but not least, Sandy, what are your predictions for this match coming up on Friday for the #1 contender spot?
Yeah, thanks. No, it's a toss up for me on this one. And I don't think, even if Kalinowski loses, I don't think that's specifically where he's going to turn heel. But Christian had said something a bit while ago that he was that he had an idea for a storyline, but he didn't know how it was going to play out because the competitors had to play. And I think if Kalinowski loses, you'll see more pressure on Brienne to give that title up, and if Brienne doesn't go his way, then you'll see the full-on heel turn at that point. I don't think that it's going to take just the loss from Clark Wolf to make him go all heely, but I think the storyline could progress that way. Clark has weaknesses too, and Brooklyn said it. She does have a tendency that when she gets flustered, she stays that way, and she can't get back to a straight and narrow line. But they both have weaknesses, and they both have strengths, and if she hits her strengths, it's over. And Kalinowski will just have to continue to squalor right now, but I'll give the slight edge to Clark Wolf by 1 1/3 point.
All right, you guys are being very specific with these point systems. Whole numbers. I deal with whole numbers, so these points are just, I don't understand what's going on. Rounding. So 1 point, and 1.5 as long as it's not 1.49 rounds up to 2. All right, so my thoughts on this match. I do give the edge to Clark Wolf, especially because you know, the horror thriller category has now been broken up into just horror and thriller. And I think that whenever she's landed on the horror thriller category in the past, it's been iffy because she's not as great with the thriller movies as she is with the horror movies. Now that it's one category, if she lands on it, I think that she should sweep round 2. That being said, you know, she is she is a volatile player where she can kind of get into a match and not play the best that she can, because she is a super strong competitor, but she's had some really disappointing matches, and I do think she is going to win. And maybe just because I've never rooted for Mike to win in a match before, even though it's always been real close for me, like it's just never happened where I'm like, I think Mike will win this match. And I said it to him once to his face, where I'm just like, I don't think I've ever rooted for you to win a match in a reaction. It doesn't mean I don't like Mike. It just means that you go up against players that I like more. It happens. It happens quite frequently with him, apparently. But it's hard for me to go against any of the female competitors because I really do kind of like all of them. So if a female's competing, more than likely they're who I'm going to root for. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this match on Friday. I think it should be a very good match as long as both competitors go into it with a lot of focus. I'm looking forward to you turning heel, Mike, and we're going to move on to the news of the week. And we have the live event, which, of course, you know, all the announcements happen after we filmed the summit of last week with the new schedule and the live event team match being announced that it's going to be between the Shirewolves and Team Action. I think this is an interesting matchup, and we're going to get everyone's predictions and thoughts on what they think this is going to work like in a live event. But we're going to make it real quick because I'm getting tired. Brooklyn, what are your thoughts on this live event announcement?
I wish these were a little closer to the east. I believe in a perfect world, I would love to go to Boston. I would definitely make the drive down to there. But yeah, I think what they're doing with the Star Wars division is great. How they're spreading it out, because that is one where if you give into the fans' tendencies of like, we want more Star Wars, where they could easily get just like, they could be done with questions very easily, because you only have the 9 movies, however many there is, and like the Iron Man match went through, I believe, like 52 plus. But yeah, with that match there, there's no real favorite. Like you saw Scrimshaw and Damon in their 5-way, they tied for second, and then of course you have Knapsack, who was the inaugural champion, lost in a heartbreaker against Whitworth. And then Shirewolves and Action Army. I mean, that is going to be the most entertaining match in a good little while. If you saw when Real Rejects had like their awesome heelish promo, I'm only curious as to what Action Army could do in that scenario with a live audience. So I believe, it'll be a very exciting one for the fans. But I wish it was a little closer to the east.
I agree with you. Chicago is also a really great city that you could potentially do a live event in Chicago. That's Chicago, Illinois. Definitely look into that. Sandy, what are your thoughts on this live event announcement?
Well, I just want to once again thank Collider and the Schmoedown for putting this type of entertainment out there for us, because I know it's for the live crowd and then we get it a little bit later, but but it's just awesome to watch. As far as the matches to go to concern, I mean, that's going to be a great three-way Star Wars match to get up against Whitwer. It's, you know, you guys are right. When the farther you go into Star Wars, there's the 10. Just Brooklyn almost had it with 10. You got to count the Clone Wars movie in there, yeah, it's you've got a limited pool. It's not like Bond, right? I mean, it's not like you know, lots of those big. It's not like the MCU. It's a bit smaller, and you know, it's gonna be a great match. The tag team match, we're gonna see if the Shire Wolves are for real. They're great individually, been great individually and in different tag teams, but they haven't been together that long, and Action has. And if they're okay after today's matches, it's going to be a challenge for them, but I've got them pulling it out.
Definitely. Sounds like an interesting matchup, in my opinion, as well. Hopefully it's close, and that, to me, potentially there's going to be some play with the live event and some teams feeding off that crowd energy more than others. You saw that with John Roca and JTE. I think Roca played off the crowd and fed off that energy more than JTE did. And then you saw John win by a pretty good margin. We'll see how that plays into their match. But I think Team Action is the type of team that does feed off the crowd energy a little bit more, but they're also going to be getting a lot of boos. So I don't know if that's the kind of energy they're looking for. Albert, what do you think about this live event and the matchup within it?
Well, yeah, the Star Wars one. First of all, I really don't know. It could go to either of those competitors. But yeah, I just want to point out that all these Star Wars match, if you think about it, has been close. Either the Force Bros versus the Council match, that was really close. Star Wars Celebration match was close. The Fatal 5-Way was very close. And of course, the Iron Man match. So this could be, once again, very competitive. And yeah, I agree with you guys. The pool is very limited. But I guess now they could include The Last Jedi. I doubt they will have Solo because it will be open like a week before, I believe. So yeah. And for the main match, Team Action versus Shire Wolves, I'm more interested in what Shire Wolves will do in terms of their promo and their entrance, because I know what to expect from Action. They will definitely feed off the crowd and they will get booed by so many people. I can already tell that. And they will definitely talk trash really well. So yeah, I'm more interested in what Shire Wolves will do in their promo, because they only have one match so far. So looking forward to that. But definitely, I do think Shire Wolves got this match in the bag.
Awesome. Malcolm, what are your thoughts about the live event announcement between Team Action and the Shire Wolves here?
Yeah, I mean, it did two really good matches. Like the Star Wars match, it's going to be really interesting to see what questions come up. I mean, of course, now that Last Jedi is on DVD, they can use that more in matches now. And then Team Action versus Shiles is going to be a really great match. Because I mean, as much as I love to hate on Team Action, they can be good, and Shiles has shown that they can be good. They're really good as a team as well. I just wish it was a lot closer to New Zealand, so I can easily get there, because you can't drive from New Zealand to LA. So.
Unless you travel by map.
How did you drive here?
As the Muppets have done and showed us, if you travel by map, it's very quick. So you should work on that. And if you figure out a way to do that, please let me know, because
I'm pretty sure you just do a montage and like you just play some 80s song and you're good.
fair. Jeremy, what are your thoughts about this announcement about the live event coming up in June?
I was very excited the fact that I actually called Team Action playing Shire Wolves. That was actually a very proud moment for me. One of the very few proud moments that I have. Because it's just fitting. I mean, Team Action in that live atmosphere, you can't ask for a better attraction than having Team Action go out there getting booed by everybody. As far as the Star Wars match, I think I'm pretty much with everybody. I think this is Nap's match to lose. I mean, there's literally setting up the rematch with him and Whitmer. It would be a shame if he does not come out on top. It would be interesting to see what they do if that does not happen. But yeah, as far as the main event, Team Action, you got no chance. I mean, Shire Wolves are going to completely stomp them into the ground. They're going to prove why they had 4 T-shirts made before they had a single match, because they are the real deal. They are going to get the job done, and hopefully they will continue on to their undefeated streak, potentially playing the Patriots by the end of the year.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see. I would particularly like to see the Shire Wolves winning. Obviously, it's Shire Wolves. And definitely, I think the live event as a whole, Star Wars matches always get a lot of hype anyway. With these 3 particular guys being in the match, I think that it's going to be a little crazier, and all 3 of them I think have a very strong chance of winning. Between the Shire Wolves and Team Action, I think between the 2 teams, the Shire Wolves are the more likely to get thrown off by the crowd, but they'll also have the crowd support behind them, so that might help them to edge out Team Action. But I think that this is going to be a closer match than we've seen, and I do have the Shire Wolves winning by just a slight margin, but I want them to win anyway. And the last news item of the night, we're just going to go over real quick. We're not going to discuss it. Was just that the Patreon had a couple updates. They removed the $2 tier, moved all the rewards for $2 to the $1 tier, and then they also kind of dropped some of the prices down a little bit. So if you're interested in getting the monthly Patreon match a week early, then that's now a $5 tier instead of a $10 tier. And they're also going to be doing a weekly live stream for the $10 tier as well. And then some of the other tiers have dropped. And then there's a couple new ones. So if you haven't checked the Patreon out in a while, they're continuously updating it to try and make it content that is useful to the people who are on the Patreon. One of the most active Patreons I've ever been a part of, and a ton of offerings for every single level of the Patreon itself. So that's really a cool thing. And we do want, we all kind of want Tom to be the new commissioner. So definitely, if you have an extra $1 lying around a month, sign up for the Patreon so that we can see him become the commissioner sometime in the near future. And last but not least, we're just going to thank the lovely panel that we had. And it was really great talking the Schmoedown with everybody. And let's find out where we can find everybody on the internet. So we're going to start out with Sandy. Why don't you let us know what you're up to and where we can find you?
Awesome. You guys can always find me on Facebook, at Twitter, and YouTube at Full Metal Media. I'm there hosting matches, playing in matches, writing questions for matches, just doing a lot of stuff over there. You can always catch me hosting also on Worldwide Movie Games. Also follow Team 80's. We're getting close to the end of the tag team tournament, so check those matches out when they upload on YouTube. That's everything.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm excited that everyone's got so much stuff going on. And speaking of people who've got a lot of stuff going on, I feel like that's every single person in this panel right now. Brooklyn, you got anything you need to plug for us?
Oh, absolutely. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Jack of All Trivia. You can see me running the Jukebox division. That is everything and all things music. Be sure to check us out. I believe if this uploads on Sunday or Monday, whatever day it is, I mean, the day before, the day of, our inaugural championship will be happening, where Luca, Hope, Val, and Madden will be taking on Chance Ellison. And then, yeah, you can also find me on the Rewind, doing a show similar to this, the week that was Jack of all Trivia, as well as a Schmoedown, and also the World on Movie Games, where you can see myself and Ed Sale, the Royal Flush, taking on Team 80s in what is sure to be an entertaining match, none the least.
Awesome. Jeremy, where can we find you, and do you have anything coming up that you need to plug?
Other than losing my Wrestling Trivia Showdown Championship, you can follow me on Twitter at WWJTH1, JTH on YouTube. And from here, I'll be heading to the Patreon page to find out all those new tiers. And yeah, you can find me on Facebook, making GIFs, ripping brackets, making Kristen laugh, all that great stuff. So, yeah.
It's accurate. I appreciate the gifts. Albert, and why don't you let us know where we can find you on the internet, and if you have anything that you need to plug for us.
Yeah, you're cool to find me on both Twitter and Instagram at JAVeradharma, and I also do have a YouTube channel which I do Schmoedown reactions, just like here in Take 3. I occasionally do random Schmoedown related content, like I did one which is top 5 players who need a documentary in Schmoedown. So that's interesting. And I also do movie reviews and trailer reaction, all those kind of stuff. That's at Jao Movies on YouTube.
Yep, and it's a great channel, and he's a really great supporter of Take 3. So we have really appreciated having you on for your debut, man. Congratulations on all your channel stuff going on. And last but not least, Malcolm, where can we find you, and let us know what you're up to on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me traveling by map to LA. But yeah, you can find me on my own personal YouTube channel, Malcolm's Middle-earth Media, and next week I hope to get episode 2 of my show called Rankin up, and I'm doing ranking top Schmoedown competitors. And then I'm on other Take 3 stuff as well.
Awesome. Opossum, you can find me, as always, at Smith_K10, the number, not the word, on Twitter, Instagram, and Stardust. You can also find me right here on the Take 3, doing the things, like the Summit, reactions, potentially other things, some sort of family game night. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. You can't find me anywhere else. Very secretive. But last but not least, Abe, the editor, thanks for editing and stuff. Do you have anything you want to say?
Thank you. You can follow me on Twitter in Soap at AbrahamF25.
I'm not surprised. Somehow I'm not surprised. All right, well, that's been the Summit. We want to thank everyone for watching. If you want to leave us a comment and a like, we would appreciate that. But we just all really appreciate you guys for giving this a listen. And thanks for checking us out. We hope to see you the next time, and we hope that you all take care.
Man, I feel like a woman.